Welcome to Behind the Badge with your hosts,
Lieutenant Ryan Williams,
and Officer Cammie Vandermolen.
your source for all things Spondy Police.
Today on a Friday, it's Behind the Badge, a weekly visit with the Fond du Lac Police Department, and he's been absent the last 2 weeks from the show last week because he was on spring break with the family. Is that right?
Yeah, I was on spring break in sunny-ish, I'll say, Florida. It was definitely warmer, and when I did come back, I came back to snow and stuff like that. And I think next week it's going to be better here.
Weather-wise, yeah.
Yes. So it was a good reminder when I got back of why we left in the first place. So.
Anything fun you do? I know Cammie said you were in the Panhandle, right? Destin?
Yeah, Destin, yeah. A lot of beach days. We did this kind of a dolphin / snorkeling excursion thing. No, it was fun. It was relaxing. But as when I leave on vacation, my work stays here and piles up, and so that's always fun.
Coming back to...
Right, yeah.
that.
And we're kind of in mid-hiring process right now, and there's a lot of moving, and we got a bunch of big trainings coming up. So, I'm gonna be busy for the rest of this month.
Well, glad you enjoyed the time off. I can see a little bit of color.
Got a little bit.
Yeah.
Got a little bit. I don't try, so I coat on the sunscreen.
Smart. You should.
My daughters did not heed my warnings, but
Sounds like teenage daughters.
I love, there's a lot of those the long sleeve shirts that are real light. I wore those a lot of times, but I didn't realize I was in the sun because you can still kind of get by with a breeze, wearing those. You're not too hot. So yeah, no need for the tan or anything like that. Just lots of sunscreen.
And no need to, have the gun show. I can
Right.
understand you wanting to not make anybody feel inadequate. as
Right.
their age.
Yeah, the gun show has been fading as my age has been going. So
That seems to happen.
trying to get back into it. I'm trying to get back.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. Always got to do something, right?
So our topic today, responding to weapons calls.
Yeah, responding to weapons calls, obviously a very serious thing. And the nice thing about Fond du Lac, where I think anyone that knows about the calls that we take in Fond du Lac know that we're busy. We're a busy city, and we've said that on here. And the good news is that we're not too busy where a weapons call is not a big deal. So what I mean by that is it's a big deal when there's someone that has a weapon or threatens with a weapon, meaning that pretty much every officer that's available is probably going to be responding to that call. And even some that are on what we would call not as important calls, they may clear and respond to those calls. So people will be like, well, geez, what's going on there? Why are there 8 squads there? We may not need 8 squads, but if we need them, we'd rather have them than have to call them later. Because like I said, it's a big deal. And so that's first and foremost. And knives can be just as dangerous as guns, and et cetera, et cetera. So we kind of treat them all seriously. There's kind of different stages for our dispatchers. So if we have a normal a noise complaint, we'll probably send one officer to that call, right? And then anything where there's a possibility of arrest or possible officer safety, that's a 2-officer call. Every once in a while, there'll be a 3-officer call, and that usually is a weapons call then. It doesn't always have to be, but usually if we hear 3 numbers called on our radio, it's time to pay attention. Something's going on. Something big is going on. And even though they're only dispatching 3 officers, it's basically an all call. It's hey, we need 3 officers, but send everybody because something big is going on. And what we're finding is statistically, especially in active threat cases, a lot of times when police are encountering these subjects, it's right when we arrive on scene. So more often statistically lately, it has been right when we arrive on scene, that's when we confront the subject. So when you see officers respond to these calls, they might be suited up already. And what I mean by suited up is if it's a weapons call, we're gonna bring extra gear. I think we've talked about it a little bit on this show before, but all police officers wear soft body armor, right? And then and that'll stop most handgun rounds, but rifle rounds that won't stop. So that for that reason, we carry extra ballistic armor. Some officers wear it all the time. They'll wear their plates all the time, but others they have to throw on some extra stuff. So when certain calls, like a weapon call, and like I said, this could be a knife, it could be a club, like a baseball bat or something like that. They're gonna put on that extra gear, and if they have their due diligence, they're actually going to do that before they even start responding to scene. So I'm driving around. We're driving around. We're training. We're training. We're driving around our squad car. We hear a weapons call. We're probably gonna pull over right away, get our stuff on, because statistically, right when we arrive, we need to be ready.
Makes sense.
And yeah, so what that takes is, if they don't have it on already, we have the vests in our cars. We have extra ballistic helmets, and then getting our rifles ready, which is what we'd say is call ready, and responding to the scene. I'm gonna be honest, it's a big pain to drive with all that stuff on.
I can imagine that too.
So that's another thing we have to prepare our officers for is hey, you're gonna be driving with all this stuff on, and it makes a big difference. Just like the distance between your seat and the steering wheel, you kind of just feel real claustrophobic.
You're on top of it, is that?
Yeah. So they get on scene, and if it's like a weapons call, we might not even park on the same block as that weapons call. So what we do is we establish what's called a hot zone. And this is important, for our viewers. If you start seeing multiple officers arriving on scene and they're all tacked up, and you're kind of I wonder what's going on. Wonder what's going on in safety. Don't stand out. And we've had this. We've had tactical calls where people just stand and they want to see what's going on, and it's we are wearing armor. You should not be standing out here what's going, and we might not be able to answer all your questions of what's going on, because we are kind of dealing with something probably pretty important,
right?
Or maybe not important, but haven't figured that out yet. I have been here long enough, and many people that have been in Fond du Lac long enough may remember we had a person that he wanted to get pulled over by police and basically wanted to do a suicide by cop. And he was very distinguishable because he drove a limousine. So I believe it was a state patrol officer down in Elmira actually did an initial traffic stop and said, okay, well, I recognize not that many limousines these days.
Sure.
Didn't do an approach, and then the guy got kind of skittish and took off from that traffic stop, and ended up finally stopping right in our city at on Brook and Forest Avenue, right in the heart. I believe the Crossing Bar. You guys remember the Crossing Bar?
Yes.
That was right on that corner there of Brook and Forest. So we end up having a standoff. This person was supposedly armed, wanted to get into a shootout with police. And so they had tactical vehicles. They had the TAC team called out there. I remember that there was such a crowd of this person that was armed, and I got called down there, and I was basically crowd control. But for me being crowd control, I was kind of a sitting duck too. And it's we were there were so many people at risk that were just kind of gawking at this incident. It was basically a horseshoe around the incident, and I'm and you can only tell people to get back so much. And I do remember one person kind of breaking the line that we were holding, and they were well, what are you going to do, arrest me? Yes, and that is exactly what happened. And we cannot let people enter those scenes. They put themselves at risk, and then they put us at risk because we might have to go save that person. Luckily that ended up peacefully. They were able to take that person in custody. But there's famous scenes of the limousine was set on fire, and sure enough, there was a handgun in there, and then the fire department went and put it out because they could actually hear the rounds going off, so that limousine is no longer there. It was burned down to basically nothing. But rounds going off and people all just standing around, so the best thing that a normal citizen can do is not be around. I know you wanna. I know it's oh, there's something going on I want to see, but wait for the newsreel or something like that. Or you can tell if you're on a scene when things have calmed down. Officers, you'll see the relaxation. But if you see tenseness, that means you probably shouldn't be there, right? So we like numbers when we respond to these calls. So you're going to see a lot of people. And the only thing that's going to make us respond quick is if there are hostages or innocent civilians that are in harm's way. So if you say like, oh, why aren't they? Well, two different things. So, and it's if it's actively going on. So there's something actively going on, and there's hostages, innocent civilians. We're going to go. If it's a barricaded hostage situation, then we're going to probably set a perimeter up, and it might take some time before we respond and deal with that issue. So a lot of people out there kind of say, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They always have the good reason, right? That's the old, the Hollywood, why don't you shoot the gun out of their hand scenario. And under stress, officers generally under stress, when they are reacting to stimulus, they do not perform well, and it's because of the amount of stress of the situation. So they are not that accurate, and it doesn't really come down to training. It just comes down to a stress response where if you know you're going to assault somebody, you're way more accurate than if you're responding to someone that's assaulting you. And you'll see that statistically, officers drop their first round, like it hits the ground, because they're so trying to stress response, trying to save their lives or whatever. So for that person under that amount of stress to be able to shoot a gun out of someone's hand is almost impossible. And a hand is a moving object, right? It's a very small moving object. So those things don't happen. Perhaps by a sniper team or something like that, but generally no. So that kind of stuff. We do have lots of ways to handle weapons calls as far as less lethal capability with our less lethal impact munitions, which is like a foam baton round that will hit you and it will hurt. We have our taser, Taser 10, which now can reach greater distances, which is awesome. We have canines. We have a pepper ball gun, which shoots like pepper spray in basically a paintball gun type thing. So we have things that we can use, but obviously if the person does not put down a weapon, we're kind of limited on what we can do. If someone has a gun, we're probably not going to be trying to use less lethal impact munitions or a taser or a pepper ball gun if we don't have time, because we're going to be exposed to a certain extent, and we may need to end the threat, unfortunately, as fast as we can. So very delicate matter. I could probably talk for years about it, but generally just remember there's a lot of officers in gear. As the public, I know you want to see, but generally run the opposite way of where we're going and get yourself behind cover, or maybe shut the doors and lock the doors if you're in a business or something like that, because we don't want whatever's going on to go mobile and all of a sudden you're involved too and you find yourself in a hostage situation. So very delicate calls, but they are a big deal for us. You're going to see a lot of response, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be in a city where at Milwaukee, how many weapons calls that they probably have, and from most of those people are oh, it's not my section, I'm not going to go to that. But in Fond du Lac, it is a big deal, and that's a good thing. We deal with it accordingly.
Great advice and information behind the badge. KFIZ today.
Morning talk, city's hot, a new day, let's all start. Behind the badge, we'll stand tall through the ups and the fall. Fond du Lac, hear the call. Behind the badge.